I don't know how many people have told me, and these are very hard things to hear. It's been hundreds of people, because I meet people after each of my lectures, who've told me that they are still alive because they watched my lectures or because they read my book, and then they usually have a good story to tell, about what sort of hell they happened to be in 6 months earlier and what they did to pull themselves out and how that's brought their family back together or helped them advance in their career.
When the University of Toronto sent you some minatory letters that I thought were against the spirit of the university, that they weren't supporting you, they were actually threatening you.
Yes.
And that said to me that something deeper is wrong here, that universities, or this university is upside down. How did you reason that? How did they get there that they could be so completely unaware of their own position?
When I first got the first letter, and I know how HR departments work. They send you one letter of warning so that it's documented, and then they send you another so that it's documented, and then they send you a third. And if you haven't ceased by then, well, then they go to the next step, which would be something to do with whatever approximation or termination they might be able to manage.
They document you.
Yes, and they're documenting all the steps. And I told the person who delivered the letter to me, who's a person I actually got along with quite well, that it was full of errors and it was poorly written and that they should take it back and write it properly, because I did.
I know. I followed it. I know.
And because if they were going to do this, they better do it right, or there was going to be trouble. And I didn't mean that I was going to cause trouble necessarily, but that there was going to be trouble. But they didn't take it back, so I read it on YouTube. So, and then I did the same thing with the second letter. The other thing too is that they actually did me a bit of a favor, because one of the things I claimed in the YouTube video that I made was that what I was doing by making the video was probably illegal.
Yes, I remember.
And their lawyers basically said that it was probably illegal. And so that also helped establish my bona fides, let's say, as a reasonable interpreter of the law.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't all bad, although it was extraordinarily stressful, that and the demonstrations that followed. Talking to journalists is the most stressful thing I've done, apart from talks at university campuses.
Journalism is very much corrupted. It is not the media in the middle. It is in many cases, wittingly or unwittingly, partisan. It is part of the game that it says it's covering. Journalism is one of the failing institutions of the society, as much as universities.
Yeah, well, there's technological reasons for that. The journalism as such is under unbelievable pressure from the new technologies, YouTube, podcasts in particular, which of course have also vastly expanded what constitutes journalism. And so journalists are running scared. It's very difficult for them to find paying jobs. Their staffs are shrinking, the newspapers are in trouble, television stations are vanishing. And so there's increasing desperation, I would say, as well as decreasing professionalism among those who still practice. And so some of it's the personal failings of the ideologues who happen to be occupying the positions that ideologues occupy, but some of it's a consequence of these transformations in communication technology that are so vast that they're actually inconceivable. And I think both YouTube and podcasts are great examples of that. Podcasts even more than YouTube, because YouTube serves billions of people, which is one walloping network.
Yeah.
But podcasts are maybe 10 times as popular. So, and that's all underground. It's interesting because they don't attract as much attention, or as much controversy. Maybe because they're more siloed in some sense. But the journalists are fighting a losing game, and I think as you fight a losing game, I've seen this happen with corporations, you lose your best people first, and then the death spiral begins, and I think we're seeing exactly that, and then that's exaggerated by this proclivity to polarization that also might be part and parcel of the technological changes. One of the things that I have watched quite frequently is the way that people respond to being mobbed on Twitter.
Yeah.
Now I've almost stopped looking at Twitter. It's been about 3 months that I've taken a Twitter hiatus, let's say. I still post, I don't even have my password anymore. I send what I want to post to a third party and they post it. You know, one of the things I've pointed out to my audiences is that there isn't a debate about who should speak on campuses. There's a debate about whether free speech exists. That's a whole different debate.
I know
And
this.
people don't understand the difference in the severity of those two debates. Like, if I don't want you to talk, I still might believe that people can talk.
Yes.
And they can exchange opinions and they can change
Yes.
each other's minds, and even if they're different. The argument that's being put forward on the campuses to stop people from speaking is that there is no such thing as free speech. All there is the exchange of the ideas of avatars who are possessed by their group ideology.
Exactly.
And then the logical consequence of that is to refuse to let them to speak, because why should you allow the group that you're in direct competition with to have its voice? And so it's the collectivists, the identity politics types, it's the very idea of individuality that they're opposed to, that they've dispensed with, and that goes back to their, to the French, the terrible.
Yeah, they're all full of shit. Okay, this one here, this is the one that NASA and your school and the media will tell you is called the man on the moon, but they don't give it to you as good as I'm going to give it to you right now. Inanimate object, pair of sunglasses up on the forehead. Now this is one image where you got these two right here are going to act as eyes for this nose and this little mouth now for that one, for that image, okay? But then erase that because it's all collaged. Eyeball, sunglasses up on the forehead, nose right here, very large lips with a smoking apparatus sticking out of its mouth that I always look at as a cigar. Now, are the sunglasses and the cigar me seeing what I want to see? It seems too perfect for that, but I still don't have any explanation for it. The cigar is going right into the lips. It's not off in any way. It's not like the cigar's over here and it's me using my imagination to make it look like the cigar or the smoking apparatus is in the mouth. It actually goes right into the lips of this large image right here. Now, this large image is going to change in a lot of ways, just like I tell you, angles of perception. I'm not even going to take it off the... I'm not going to pick the camera up right now. Anytime I'm listening to certain people, I get so aggravated that I don't even want to do this because I see how hopeless it all is for anyone to really truly awaken. And it's upsetting. So I'm not going to bother with certain things. I might later if I calm down, if I go on to another series or something, whatever. I could take out my cropping tools right now and get rid of all the imagery on this side because I could be pointing out image after image after image all around in here. But I'm not. I have on other videos I have. Anyways, that's the man on the moon anyway. That they tell you, not as full as I just pointed it out to you now, but keep an eye on it. This is one of the angles that you get it really good.
If something's valuable, you'll make sacrifices to attain it. That discovery of sacrifice, I think that's what separates it's one of the primary factors separating human beings from animals. Because we discovered that we could let go of something we value in the present and we would gain something we value even more in the future. We acted that out dramatically in all sorts of strange ways over thousands and thousands of years before it was formalizable psychologically. But it's a massive discovery. I can forego gratification in a particular way and benefit in the future. So I can share the proceeds of my hunt. And I store up future food in the form of reputation, and the favors I'm owed now by other people. It's a massive discovery. It took me a long time to understand that belief regulated emotion. So what happens is that if you act out your identity, if you act out your beliefs in the world, and what you want doesn't happen, what happens is that your body defaults into emergency preparation for action. And the reason for that is you've wandered too far away from the campfire, and now you're in the forest, and maybe you're naked. And so what do you do then? And the answer is, well, you don't know what to do. So what do you do when you don't know what to do? And the answer is you prepare to do everything. And the problem with that is that it's unbelievably draining psychophysiologically. Like, it hurts you. And there's
Okay, the one I call the wizard, this is not his angle, but it's starting to become his angle. When it gets around, I believe it's over here somewhere at the top of it. But anyways, eye, nose, and mouth of this wizard. He's got a hairline, he's got the forehead, and the rest of his face will show up. It's going to be right in here. Eyes in here, in this dark area on one side. And it goes, there's many other images too, because there's another one looking off that direction, which is eye, nose, and mouth down here looking off that way. But that's not the one I'm trying to direct you to. So keep an eye on these big eye sockets with this nose and this mouth. I call him the wizard because that's what he looks like. He's got a big mole on his face and stuff. I think it's on his nose, if I remember. Oh no, it's right under his eye. It's under his left eye. He's got that big, which is one of the pimples on the moon. That's I call it. I don't know. It's what I always call them. The pimples on the moon. There's a bunch of them, but one of them is right. It's right here under his eye, and then I think there's another one under this eye too, or something, which are going to turn out to be, of course, it's image within image within image. But you got to take away the collage. Use cropping tools. It'll help.
well, because you can be hurt, pain, you can be damaged, you can become intolerably anxious, and you can die. So it's no wonder you're sensitive. We're very sensitive to negative emotion. And so our identities, functional identity regulates your emotion. But you do that in concert with other people. In the first chapter of the new book, Beyond Order, the rule is don't casually denigrate social institutions or creative achievement. That's that balance again. I make the case that most of your sanity is socially distributed. And what I mean by that is, well, let's say that you know how to behave. You're well socialized. You can play with others. Now, I said already in this conversation, if you didn't learn to play with others between the time you were 2 and 4, you will never learn. And psychologists have beat their heads against the wall trying to rehabilitate antisocial children. They can't do it after the age of 4. Well, it seems to be partly because the kids fall farther and farther behind. So let's say you make the leap from egocentric dependence on your mother at 2 and 3 to immersion in a peer group. Well, then you pick peers that are at your same developmental level, and you chase each other up the developmental ladder. And the longer you're out of that, the farther you fall behind. And so, kids, 5-year-old kids might come across another 5-year-old kid who tends to cry too much if they don't get their way. And they'll say, we don't want to play with the baby. And what they're saying is, we have to find someone who's at our developmental level, shares our developmental horizon, so that we can mutually scaffold our further development. Now, they're not going to say that, guys, obviously, but that's the situation. And kids...
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a magic. I'm like a magic guy, yeah. Oh my God, you're so full of shit, man. Oh my God. Don't sound like it, no. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
chapter, yeah, it opens with a discussion of why you get resentful. It's like, well, cultures array against you, so you're the target of tyrannical forces that are beyond your control. They're arbitrary. They don't work in your interest, at least not entirely. And the more eccentric you are, let's say, the more tyrannical culture will be to you. And so you're stuck
Oh,
with that. And then nature conspires to destroy you constantly and is going to do that with pain and anxiety and aging. And then there's the
why did they
uncontrollable
shut your cable off?
of your own psyche.
Oh,
Everyone
so
faces
what do you care?
they face
So what?
positive elements of
What do you
culture,
care? What do you do about
beneficence of
that?
culture, the beauty of nature,
Oh,
the glory of the human spirit. That's there as well.
so what's the,
Even
so
reasons
who
to
cares? I mean, it's not shutting your cable off.
but it's not a good game unless you want to produce hell. You know, I took
I
the
know, but
argument
they don't
that
even shut you up till you're like
the
3 to 6 months
Second World War
behind. You gotta be
seriously.
way
It
behind.
can never forget, okay? It can't remember what we
Oh,
don't
okay.
understand. So what are we supposed to remember? What are we remembering? The fact that all these people were murdered? No. We're supposed to remember that that was a revelation of the genocidal nature of the human psyche. That's partly why I'm so impressed, let's say, with the story of Cain and Abel. I dealt with that in my biblical lecture series and in my writings. You know, the first two human beings, according to the book upon which our culture is predicated, for better or worse, the first two human beings are
Yeah.
brothers, the adversary and the hero.
Huh.
The archetypal adversary and the hero, put right at the beginning of that
Oh,
amazing
that'll be
book.
probably a couple weeks.
It's the beginning of
I
history.
fuck. I
Cain's
fucked up. No.
sacrifices are
I
rejected by
fucked up.
God.
No, I
Okay,
fucked
well,
up.
how do we
I
understand
signed
that?
the
That's
front of the fucking
easy.
receipt,
Once you know the
and
key,
now they won't give me the
you make
parts until
sacrifices
I
to make the
show them
future happen.
evidence that it's really my
And what if that
receipt.
doesn't pay off?
I don't know.
Well,
They're fucked up.
think about that. You know what that's like.
The receipt for the parts, yeah.
You endeavor to do something.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
I
You're
told you
not
I shouldn't have
appreciative
signed
of
it.
who you are.
I should have left it alone and
You
just
fail.
fucking not even touched it.
You
And
fail
then I'd have the part in
despite
my hand
your
like
best
yesterday.
efforts. Well, are you
Yeah.
rejected by God? Well, it's as if you're rejected by God.
The air
Does it make you
conditioner.
resentful?
I ordered the part.
Does it make
I
you
re-
bitter? Does it
the
make you
receipt
want to
for
pull
the
down
part.
the
And I
successful?
ordered it.
Does it make you want to pull down the successful
You just asked me what was taking so long, and I'm telling
pull
you.
down the successful
So they're probably going to
object
delay it, probably a good couple of weeks. I got to get a
Yes,
new
that
receipt.
happens to be
Don't
yes.
sign the front of it. It's going to cost me
You
fucking
shake
money to
your
do
fist
it.
at
Probably
God.
$2-3.
You say, I'm your
And then
father.
once I get
I'm whom you blessed.
the new receipt, I got to remember, don't sign the
No
front of it.
wonder. It's no wonder.
You're a fucking
It's
weirdo.
part of that.
And the parts will be in when the parts come in. The parts will come in when the freaking parts come in.
Distributed.
Yeah, my
Part of
games, yeah.
history.
Uh-huh, yeah, yeah, my
Well, it
games.
doesn't help. It doesn't help to become bitter. And it's not
Yeah,
like I
we
don't
do.
understand the temptation. I mean, I think part of the reason I get really
Oh my
so fun
God.
preaching is because I'm talking to myself. You know, it's not like I don't put myself in the boat of the damned and lost. We have
Just
to
in time.
strive
No.
not to be wretched. There's something that doesn't seem fair about that. Why couldn't we just be happy being who and what we are? Why is it that we're punished if we don't strive?
Yeah.
I don't know. We're
How
negative
much?
organisms, right? I mean, we have to maintain this incredible complexity in the face of a dissipating universe.
That sounds.
It requires effort. It's the second law of thermodynamics, I believe. That's why we have to strive. Why is the world constituted that way? I guess it's an infantile
Huh.
paradise wish in some regard. Couldn't we just be rewarded for who we are? I can understand that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it works.
All right. So what happened with the fucking car now? So what happened? Are they coming to get it or not?
Things function like that. And I don't think probably in the final analysis we really want them to. I don't know if anyone enjoys undeserved reward. You know, it feels kind of creepy, doesn't it, to be rewarded for something you didn't do? The positive emotion that we find sustaining is experienced in relation
No, no, they don't. They scrap it all. It's worth more as scrap than it is as a resale.
You can no longer strive within that frame, and you need a new frame to strive towards. And so, technically, and this is well established as far as I'm concerned. We even know with the drugs that people
Well,
abuse,
you just said three different
one of the
contradicting things there.
so
So, are you going to get rid of it, or are you not going to get rid of it?
system that regulates our emotional response to evidence that we're moving towards a desired goal.
It's not that complicated, though. Why I don't understand why you're trying to make everything as you. I don't. I shouldn't even say that anymore. I do understand why you're trying to make things complicated.
Indicate that things are worthwhile. So this is deeply this striving aspect is
I know what you did. You don't have to tell me all that part. I want to know the part about when are they coming to get it. So that's the only part.
amen. As you move toward it, you get wiser.
No, you don't. And I'm telling you that that's not true. I'm telling you that is not true. You whatever you confused with them, I don't know, but I'm telling you, the guy, Mr. Doctor, Mr. Fucking Know-It-All, who knows everything, is telling you that's not true. As long as you have the title in your hand, and as long as the signature that's on that fucking title, no matter what it is, matches your driver's license, that means you can give them the car and they can take it. They're going to give you another piece of paper that you're going to sign called the bill of sale. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, no, 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 no. The bill of sale, bill of sale. The bill of sale means that you are now signing it over to the junkyard. That's the only difference. So you sign it over to, huh? Yeah, well, don't bring that in. I don't. I'm not talking about none of that. I'm telling. Uh huh. Because you confused them. Because you confused them somehow. I'm telling you why. I'm telling you the way it works. You're not listening. If you tell them that I got the clean title, I got the title of the car, but I bought the car, signed the title, but I decided not to register the car. I found out. Okay, I found out it needs some framework, and now I want to junk it. That's it. That's it. Stop right there. And then they're going to say, okay, that's no problem. But the title, you signed your name on it? Yes, I did. Okay, no problem. So we're going to give you a bill of sale. You're going to sign the bill of sale over to us. So this way you don't have to spend $75 on a title just to junk your fucking car. Makes absolutely no sense.
Like it's you ain't seen nothing yet.
That's what.
That's the right message. And so I would say, don't overestimate yourself now, but don't underestimate your future self. You have so much influence as an individual if you get your acting in
Uh
order. You
huh.
can
Uh
do
huh.
it, but there isn't anything that
Right.
has more
They want to
influence
make sure it's not stolen.
than the
Right.
power that
Right. They
lies
want to make sure it's not stolen. So they do a quick check on the
when you start to
title number to make sure the car's not stolen, and it's not. So it should be, yeah, it should be no problem. So the only reason why I said to even call them places is because you will get more money. They'll pay top dollar. So they'll give you 600, especially if metal and steel is up right now, and I think it is. So they will give you probably 700 bucks for it. If you called Fairview or one of them guys, they might even get the call. They also compete for the highest price. It's just that they're not always the highest price. It depends on the vehicle. So if your car's only worth $300 or $400 to Fairview, but the place over in Connecticut is paying more for steel, which they are, then you'll get a couple $100 more for the car there than you will here. I don't know exactly how much. It depends on what the prices of steel are, at any given moment. So, I mean, it's really not complicated. You started it last Thursday to try doing this. You called me on what, Friday, Saturday or something to tell me that it was all going down. And then here we are the following fucking week. I know it's a lot of drama for nothing, man. I mean, I don't know why you complicate everything all the time. I
individual
mean,
own this set of ideas, and that way you could sidestep the identity politics traps, and that would be a very good thing. But I think a modern conservatism, which isn't really all that distinguishable from a classical liberalism, as it turns out, is to put tremendous
yeah,
stress
all I'm saying is that you're looking for reasons every morning, every day to be aggravated and upset about absolutely nothing. I don't understand. You're causing your own fucking anxiety, and then you wonder and upset that and you're all anxietied out. And then when you think about the reasons why you're anxietied out, you're making the shit up, huh?
also the fascinating part
Yeah, I didn't really want to get involved, but with this car shit. But you know what? I'm not gonna keep waiting. You're acting all dumbfounded, and that you don't. I can't even find my fucking pen. I go do. I mean, it's so fucking ridiculous, man. I'll call and find out about it all, but I don't have the title. I don't have the title number, so I'm only gonna get so far with it. But I want to find out what the fuck they're talking about.
The truth of the matter is, as far as I'm
License, right. Right. So when they come pick the fucking piece of shit up, I'll have to call you to tell you to be here. That's all. But at least the drama can end. I mean, this is, oh my God, I can't fucking go.
to rise above it and to transcend it and to deal with
Yeah, you don't have to write nothing on. Let the other guy write the fucking mileage in. Don't worry about it. You're making too much out of everything.
for our families and for our community. And we can constrain
Yeah.
that malevolence, at least in our own hearts.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. None of it is. Okay. All right. I'm going to go online as soon as I get done. I'm doing some. Get the money. Get the money out of Eddie. Yep. Get the money out of Uncle Eddie. Whatever you're gonna do. All right. Goodbye. Holy fuck me, do, man.
Responsibility to make things better, then you have a reason to get up. And so one of the things that I've been stressing to people is that there's very little difference between the meaning in life that gives you fulfillment and that engages you in existence and the willingness to shoulder as much individual responsibility as you can possibly handle. Those are the same things. And that's a really useful thing to know. And you kind of know this, right? Everybody knows this because, first of all, if you're not living up to your responsibilities, even to take care of yourself, the probability that you're going to be ashamed of that at some level is extraordinarily high. And so your own soul tells you that you're in error, so to speak. But also, if you look at who you spontaneously admire, which is a good indication of where your value system really sits, you'll see that the people you admire are always people who take responsibility for themselves and responsibility for their family and responsibility for their community. Get your act together. You've got things to do in the world. The absence of your full being in the world leaves a hole that is filled by terrible things. At minimum, you have an ethical responsibility to ensure that the world doesn't devolve into something approximating hell. And at maximum, you have the responsibility, again, that is a heavy ethical responsibility, to do everything that's in your power to make things as good as you can possibly make them, in this sophisticated manner that takes you and your family and your community into account. And it's on you, right? And that's meaning. People say, well, I'd like to have a meaningful life. It's like, well, fair enough. But the price that you pay for the meaning that transcends tragedy is the adoption of responsibility for the catastrophe of existence. But that ennobles you, right? It makes you into someone strong and someone competent and someone who's worthwhile and who lives in a manner that justifies their own suffering. And there's nothing better than you could possibly do than that. Although there is a very large number of ways of looking at the world, or perhaps a near infinite number of ways of looking at the world, there isn't a near infinite number of ways of acting in the world in a manner that actually is successful. So there are constraints on how you can interact with the world in a successful manner. Let's assume that you don't want undue pain and anxiety. We could just start with that, and I think that's a reasonable proposition. You can tolerate some pain and anxiety if it's in the service of something greater, obviously, but I just mean pointless pain and anxiety. We don't want any more of that than is necessary. And that means that you have to take care of yourself to some degree. But the manner in which you take care of yourself is severely constrained. This is partly why you have to be intelligent and careful and plot your way through life properly. You have to take care of yourself today, but you have to take care of yourself today in a way that doesn't interfere with you taking care of yourself tomorrow and next week and next month and next year and 5 years from now and 10 years from now. So you can't do just what you want to in the next hour, because if it's impulsive pleasure seeking, let's say, something like that, excess alcohol use or excess drug use or careless sexual behavior or betrayal of people to gain you something in the moment, you're going to pay for that. You're going to pay for it tomorrow. You're going to pay for it next week and next month and next year. So because you're going to exist in the future and because you have to live with yourself, there's only a certain number of ways that you can act that are going to work. But it's more than that. It's not just that you're responsible to your future self or the set of all your future selves, is that you also have to act in a way that works for your family. Because otherwise your family's going to disintegrate and break down and cause you and them all sorts of misery and grief. And not just your family now, but also your family into the future. And then not just your family either, but also your community. And so you have to set your aspirations so that they serve you in the broadest sense over a long period of time, and they also serve your family and they also serve your community, and that's a very tight set of constraints. And I think that the best solution to that set of constraints from a philosophical perspective, or maybe even a theological perspective, is to view the world as a place not of groups but of individuals, of sovereign individuals who are responsible for their destinies, responsible for their families and for their communities. You learn to use minimal necessary force. It's like you don't defend yourself any more than you have to. Like, be careful. Don't push any harder than you need to, because all you do is you generate a counterforce by pushing harder than you need to, and then you're in conflict. And you think, well, I like a little conflict. It's like, look, fair enough, a little conflict, man, no problem. It keeps your life kind of interesting, and maybe that's on the problem-solving edge. But a little conflict can become a lot of conflict very, very rapidly, and if you have any sense at all, that's not what you want. You know, especially if you have other
I called the
things
course
better to
Personality
do,
and
you
its
should have other
Transformations,
things
and
that are better.
I think you could think about that as a restatement of the idea of being and becoming. And that's what you are. You're, for whatever that means, you're an entity that both is and is transforming. And there's a rule that goes along with that, which is don't sacrifice who you could be for who you are. Which means if you have to choose to transform in a positive direction or maintain your current position, then it's better to transform in a positive direction. Who are you? You're the thing that transforms who you are. But on top of that, you're the thing that transforms who you are. You are the thing that is, and you're the thing that becomes. And you should put the thing that becomes at a higher place than the thing that is. That means you also have to allow yourself to shake off those things about you that you might be pathologically attached to, habits and people, for that matter, ways of thinking, all of those things. You have to allow yourself to shake those off, and that's more like a burning. And you might say, well, I don't know what I should leave behind, and the answer to that is that's a lie. You know some of the things that you should leave behind. All you have to do is ask yourself. You'll come up with a list instantly of 100 stupid things that you're doing that you know you could stop doing. Some of them maybe you don't know you could stop doing. It's like, well, fine, leave those alone for now. But there's a bunch of things you perfectly know well that you could stop doing that would improve your life. Everything that makes you anxious or everything that makes you upset is the same as every other thing that's ever made you upset. All those things that have made you upset that you've never dealt with, they're all laying down there at the bottom of your nasty little soul, waiting to pop themselves up in some random utterance, right? And so then you go in there at your peril, because if you're the person who pokes around in that, then you're going to get blasted with all of that stuff. It's going to come out like almost uncontrollably. And then you can sort it out. What's behind the game you're playing? And the answer to that is all the world that you're ignoring. Always. You're trying to do well in a class, and you get a bad grade. Why did I get this C minus? What is it? The answer is you don't know. Do you not know what you thought you knew? Are you not who you think you are? Do you not work hard enough? Are your values not organized properly? Do you misuse your time? Are you in the wrong field? Is the way you're construing your life completely inappropriate? Are you acting out what your parents wanted you to do and you're pissed off about it, so you're only running at 40% to spite them, despite the fact that they're paying $25,000 a year for your education? When you're in the world and something objects to you, something that matters objects to you, then the entire unrealized world is in that thing that objects. It's all tangled up inside it. That's why it's the great dragon of chaos. It's everything that's outside of your conceptual structure. And what is that? It's everything that lurks outside of your walled city. well, you get your C minus and you don't do anything about it. Maybe you're a little bitter and more resentful, and your study habits get a little worse. So the next time you get like a D plus.
Yeah, everybody's so full of shit. There's a good canine coming around on this one here. Let's see if I get it. Where is he? Yeah, right here. Eye, nose right here, and the mouth's under here, and he's got a little ear here for this canine. And I'm only pointing out all these large ones today, like eye, nose, and mouth right here of this one. He's got wearing apparel going on, unless we're only catching part of his hairdo because we run out of area. Well, at least it appears to. But if I go in on it and I take the camera and I go in on it, I can go all the way up and around. And then another one right here. So eye, nose, and mouth down here. Watch for that one as well. He'll fill in as we come in. And then, of course, you got the wizard right here. There he is. In order to get the wizard, I gotta take out part of the, otherwise you're gonna get this full one. The wizard doesn't go that far. He ends right there. I'd have to get the cropping tool out. Matter of fact, you can see where the shadow color ends. See this line right here? Take that out, all to the right, get rid of it. And there's your wizard. Eye, nose, and mouth. Right there, with a little bit of hairdo thing going on.
You have to forego all that pleasure if you actually helped your person develop. So you got to get over all that. It's really annoying. It's dangerous because they might outshine you. Well, good. Then you'll have someone to compare yourself to. That'd be a good deal. It's really rough with kids, because parents will stop their children from succeeding beyond them. They get jealous. And then they'll put them down. And then they have kids that do not like them. And they'll pay for it. If you aren't suffering from self-imposed misery, and you're only suffering from inescapable misery, maybe you could handle that, and you could survive, you could bear it, and even maybe without becoming irredeemably corrupt. So the goal would be, well, yeah, life is a rat's nest of miseries, and maybe it has no ultimate meaning. We could say that if we're feeling particularly pessimistic, but it still leaves one question open, which is, if you didn't do everything you could to make it worse, how good could you make it be? And the least answer is, well, it could be tragedy, but maybe not hell. That's the most pessimistic, proper statement. The worst case outcome, in the worst of all possible worlds, is that your life could be tragic, but not hell. You're at your mother's deathbed, and all you and all your idiot siblings are arguing. Well, that's the difference between tragedy and hell. You walk away from a situation like that, sick of yourself and sick of everything else, too. And it's often the case that tragic circumstances bring out the dragons, because the stress is high and all those things that people haven't dealt with, they don't have the energy to repress, and all the bitterness comes pouring forward. If you were all gathered around the bed of someone close who was dying, could you manage it? And if the answer is no, it's like, well, put your life together, because it's going to happen. And you should be the person who's there that can do it, and do it properly. And then maybe you'd find that it isn't the sort of thing that will undermine your faith in life itself. You don't want to be the thing that clings so desperately to the raft that you can't let go when someone comes to rescue you, right? You don't want to be that. So then you think, well, exactly what are you? You're not the chaos, you're not the plan. Maybe you're the thing that confronts the obstacle. And then when you know even further that the obstacle is not only an obstacle, but opportunity itself, are you so sure that this is a problem? Is that the only way that you can look at it? Or is it an opportunity? And maybe you're in the order and maybe you're in the chaos, but those can flip on you. And maybe you shouldn't be in either of those places. Maybe you should be right in the middle. That's when you go down, you see, when you're down in chaos and you don't know what the hell's going on, you have to rediscover the values that have oriented people forever. That's what you have to discover.
So, for example, when I'm dealing with people who have post-traumatic stress disorder, and they've usually encountered someone malevolent, they have to relearn the description of good and evil. Because if they don't, they have no framework. They're lost. They think, well, there's malevolence afoot in the world. Because the only thing that a monster won't mess with is another monster. And you might say, well, I don't want to transform myself into a monster. It's like you don't have a choice. You can either be a pathetic monster, or you can be a monster with some power. Those are your options. There's no non-monster alternative, weak or strong. And I don't mean strong like dominating tyrant strength. That isn't what I mean at all. I mean strength like functioning at a funeral strength. And that's a kind of monstrosity. And when you're down in chaos, that's what you have to rediscover. You want to be safe? Forget that. That's not in the cards. You're not going to be safe. Well, then you have to be meta-safe. And that's way better, because then you're not safe, but you know how to cope with danger. Well, fine. That solves the problem. And maybe it's even a better solution, because if you're safe, then you just have to stay in your burrow. But if you can confront danger, then you can go wherever you want and you can have an adventure. And maybe that's what you need to do, is to go out and have an adventure. So you don't even want safety, because how exciting is that? Let's say we made you perfectly safe. All that you had to do was eat cakes and worry yourself with the continuation of the species. Well, what would you do? You'd smash it all down as soon as you possibly could, just so you had something interesting and challenging to do. So you don't want safety. You want to be able to cope with danger. That's a whole different thing. You don't get to be safe ever again. Well, so what happens? You get to be stronger. Well, hey, turns out that's a better bargain anyways. I read this piece of work by Jung a long while back, and it was a meditation on the injunction to treat your neighbor as you would like to be treated. And what Jung pointed out, which I really liked, was that wasn't an injunction to be nice to other people. It was an invitation to reciprocity. It was something like this. It's like, you should figure out how you would like to be treated, like you were taking care of yourself. It's like, imagine you had a child that you really cared for, and someone said, well, people will treat this child exactly like you want them to, but you have to figure out what that is. How do you want your child to be treated? You don't want everyone just to be nice to him, you know. You want people to challenge him, and you want people to discipline him, and you want people to tell him when he's wrong. It's like, you don't just want everyone to be nice. That's pathetic. It's pathetic. There's no challenge in that. You want to treat other people like you would like to be treated. Well, then you have to figure out, how would you like to be treated? And while you'd like people to fawn all over you and just lay everything at your feet, it's like, no, that's not something you'd wish for someone that you were taking care of. Then there's an additional problem, which is, it's often the case that people will treat other people better than they treat themselves. It's a bit of a meditation on why people don't like themselves very much. I think there's two reasons, really, and one is that we're fragile and damageable and imperfect in multiple dimensions all the time. And that often just gets worse. Lots of things get worse as you get old, for example. So it's not necessarily that easy for a self-conscious being who's extraordinarily aware of his or her own fragility, but not just fragility, foolishness and errors. Like, you know yourself better than anyone else knows you, and you might have a certain amount of dislike for someone you know because of something they did, but you know everything you did. Jesus, that's a drag, man. You know, you have to carry that along behind. It's like, really, I did that, you know? You're weak and kind of useless and prone to temptation, and you know all those things, you know, that just shouldn't be that way. And then you're also capable of pretty vicious acts of malevolence, and so you also know that about yourself. And so it's a real existential question for people. It's like, why the hell should you take care of something as sorry and wretched as you are? Despite the fact that you're not all that you could be, the proper attitude to have towards yourself is the attitude that you would have towards someone that you genuinely cared for. And that it's incumbent on you to act as if you genuinely care for yourself, just like you would act towards someone that you actually cared about, some other person. It's a reversal in some sense of the golden rule, right?